Today we're going to go through doing basic service on our Green APU with the Kubota 3-cylinder engine. Basic service is required on the Green APU every 600 hours, other than the first service. That's done at 100 hours for the first break-in of the engine. We usually try to do that first service while it's still in the shop if time permits. Otherwise, we always can do that first service free of charge if you could bring it back into our shop. Service requires 3 filters: our oil filter, fuel filter, and air filter. Our oil filter, it's a Wix part number 51358, and we also have a higher capacity option, 51344. So we recommend the higher capacity. If you can find that, both of them will work. Our fuel filter, again a Wix part number, it's 33390, and our air filter 49913, Wix part number. When we do our basic service, we also go through the belts. Most of the time we just have to tighten the belts. About every third service we have to replace the belts. So for our Kubota engine, the alternator belt is part number 15371 from Continental. There are some other manufacturers that have options as well, but we found the Continental to be above just about all of our other options, so we recommend that if possible. And then we use a Bando part number 6PK775 on our compressor. When doing the basic service on the Kubota engine, you'll basically have to take off 2 panels. This front panel here will have to come off in order to do the air filter. It's going to be right here behind that panel, and the bottom cover will have to come off. The bottom cover is held on by 11 bolts, and they're all 11 millimeter in size. So a ratchet or a air gun, remove this bottom cover and set it off to the side, and then you'll be able to access the drain plug as well as both the air filter and the fuel filter. Once we have the bottom cover removed from the APU, we're able to go ahead and drain the oil. It's a 22 millimeter socket on the bottom of the drain plug, and that'll drain the oil, and then we're able to go to the filter. The oil filter and the fuel filter are accessed from the bottom of the unit, but they're best seen here from the rear of the unit with the back cover removed. We have the fuel filter down lower and the oil filter up a little bit higher. These are typically best removed with an oil filter socket that fits onto the bottom of both filters. They can be kind of tight, especially from the factory. So we find that those type of oil filter wrenches or sockets work best in reaching up there and getting them off. The air filter is accessed here in the front of the unit. So you remove the front cover. There's 5 11 millimeter bolts that you remove for the front cover to come off, and then the filter is found right here in this housing. Removing it, then reinserting it is usually fairly easy. Just snapping this front cover on is only real trick. Oil is refilled here on the top of the engine, and the Kubota engine takes 4 quarts of oil. We always want to double check after we refill, make sure that we don't have to add a little bit more to get it up to the fill line. Sometimes with the higher capacity filters we need to do so. The compressor belt is adjusted with this tensioning block right here. The side of the block first needs to be loosened with it's a 17 millimeter bolt, and then the block itself can be adjusted with a 1/2 inch socket on this bolt here. If we have to replace the compressor belt, we loosen both of those bolts, then we pry up on the bottom of the compressor. That'll give the compressor some slack, and we'll be able to pull this belt off from the side. We're showing the rear of the unit again to demonstrate the alternator belt. There's a 12 millimeter bolt on the top of the alternator, and just loosening that one bolt allows you to move the alternator back and forth to adjust the belt. We've loosened that bolt, and you see just pulling on the alternator allows us to remove the belt and then just reinstall the belt the same way, push the alternator back. Typically we'll use a pry bar here between the engine and the alternator, and then just tighten the bolt back up. The last step in completing the basic service is to reset the oil timer. The controller keeps track of the hours between oil changes, and once you get to 550 hours, it'll start giving you a warning to let you know that you have to do service. Once you get to 600 hours, the unit will no longer start until you go ahead and do your basic service, and once that's done, you go to our maintenance option in the controller and reset oil timer. They'll ask you for a pin, and almost all the time that pin is going to be all zeros. So you just click through that, and it'll give you an option of back or reset oil timer. Going down to reset the oil timer, that'll reset, You can verify that by going into the service hours, and you'll see now that the oil hours is 0. That'll allow you to continue to start the unit until you get to your 600-hour period again.